in a way that is loving, compassionate, understanding, right? Because many times for them, they're almost even embarrassed, right? Because there's this negative stigma attached to mental health, unfortunately, especially in our community. And so you want them to be at ease with knowing it's okay for them to even be vulnerable, right? So that they can open up. And one of these important lessons I learned is that sometimes our vulnerability helps give them the breakthrough they need, right? And so being honest with people, right? If you maybe dealt with, you saw how brutally honest I was here on this platform. I learned to be that way when I was writing my book. A friend of mine said to me, because I was struggling with transparency, I was like, I can't tell people all my business. I was like, wait a second, half of my family don't even know all this, and you want me to put this in a book? And he said something that was so powerful. He said, Kiana, if you don't share your story, then God can't get the glory. Amen. Right? And oftentimes people, the Bible says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb in the word of their testimony, right? And so sometimes people need to hear your own testimony of maybe how you went through a challenge and what you did to go through it, right? But again, we want to just be understanding, and we want to refrain from toxic positivity, right? That is the devil. Right? We mean well, but when you go to someone and they say they're being challenged in their mental health, and you say, oh, you better call on Jesus, but call a therapist too, okay? Right? Let's not minimize that we are human beings, right, that have emotions. And that's why, again, I start off this conversation saying that it's the spiritual part, soul part, and the physical part. And we have to acknowledge each one. And so, yes, we want to encourage people to strengthen their relationship with God and call on Jesus, but we want them to get the help that they need and support them without judging them in the process. Yeah.
But also, one of the strategies I used with a family member, I went to the first session with them, and I did not sit in the session, but I sat outside the session. And by sitting outside the session and waiting on them, that was the support that they needed, that the next time I didn't have to go with them, because that was the icebreaker for them. So going to finding a therapist that works for them, and then going to the first session with them, sitting outside and waiting for them and asking them, how was it? And then, like with a friend of mine, he went with his family member. The family member did not jail with that counselor. So what did they do? They found another one and kept going with them until they found somebody that they gelled with, and that person got comfortable and got the help they needed.
Yeah. And I would just insert, it was one of the questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, was overcoming the stigma. Overcoming the stigma of mental health. By having this session, that's why I tip my hat to Omar and support getting his books, and I tip my hat to the pastor, because a lot of churches won't talk about mental health. And so it helps us overcome the stigma. You already gone home empowered. You're more empowered than you know. And there's going to come a time where you're just going to allow your transparency and something that you gleaned from today to at least open up the conversation. And lastly, sometimes with families, codependency goes on, and we normalize a lot of behavior, and sometimes we can't help our family. Sometimes we can't. And we might have to refer out. Unfortunately, I got to go. Thank you guys so much.
I was going to add what Pastor Bradley was saying too, that he was the person that went with the person, and sometimes we have to find a person that connect with your family member. It may not be you, it may be somebody else in the family, maybe anyone. Just ask them, well, who's your friend? You know, who's your partner? Who speaks into your life? And find that person, and then handhold them. We call it a warm handoff. Just hand them, walking them to the facility or the therapist, and help them make that connection.
If I may really quickly, I would just say the first thing to do is pray. You pray for it first, to invite him in, to let you know and to lead you where it is and how you want to deal with that situation, because he may direct you to who can deal with that situation and who they need, right? So the first thing I say is pray. Second thing is create a safe environment. If he does tell you that, yes, you are the person to navigate this conversation, you create a safe space for them first, right? And then the next thing is relatability, which is the vulnerability. In my community, we talk a lot and we're very transparent, because at the end of the day, no one can get to know you until you take the mask off and you're vulnerable, right? And so when they're able to see that safety, then someone else is able to be able to come in. And so I felt exactly like you, Kiana, where I was like, Lord, why you got me unmasking and being naked? Like, I felt so naked sharing all my stuff. Like, I had to talk about my divorce. I had to talk about how bad my attitude was. I had to tell everything on me. And I was like, this don't feel no fun. But what happened, it did not. I was like, I ran and I kept running. I even still be trying to run now and he'd be like, come back, right? So this whole unmasking process, it makes you feel naked and vulnerable. It's the same thing that he requires for us to come to him with, right? And so when we do that unto each other, then you really get to know the person, right? And so that would be my thing is first pray. He says yes for you, create a safe environment, and then girl, prepare to get naked. Be like, look, this is what's happening, like I noticed this, or here's what I felt, would you like to continue talking to me? Would you like to go to therapy? Would you like this? Because I let everybody know I need therapy in Jesus. It's no way around it. You need therapy and you need Jesus because we need it. Right? And so that's what I was saying. I think that will really help them be able to be in that space to then open up and be vulnerable as a first step to acknowledging, because sometimes we don't even recognize, like I didn't recognize how evil I was. I was evil in my marriage because of a lot of...
She sure was.
But I was because of the hurt trauma that I had experienced, right? Created such a mask of this strong woman that the interior, you ain't talking to her. I look like I got the RBF face. I had that for a long time, right? Because I was so hurt. It was like, you're not talking, no. Ain't nobody getting into here no more. Stay over there. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. If you said something to me, I was cussing you out. Like, it was horrible, right? But once all those walls began to come down, it was a different version that was already inside, but I just didn't want her out because I didn't want to be her.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna point out that a part of her question was if the person does not acknowledge it.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about, sis. And you took the words right out of my mouth. That prayer piece is important because you may not be the person to take it to them. Like some of you had mentioned on the panel earlier, every assignment is not your assignment. And so prayer definitely, especially if they're not acknowledging it, because you're gonna go to them and be like, I think you might need to go to the doctor and get that. And what are you talking about? And so it's a hot mess. So you want to definitely pray for that person. That reminded me of Job and how his friends sat with him first and didn't say a word before they said the words. Well, they had no business saying, they wasn't praying. But you see what I'm saying? So yes, question.
I just want to know when is the next one?
We definitely need another one.
We are going to plan a follow-up.
Okay.
And we will probably do something in December around holiday depression. Okay?
Because Thanksgiving is coming around.
Well, yeah, but,
God is for us, who could be against us?
true,
Yeah.
true. Give me scripture and beat me up with the Bible.
I did a presentation on this, like a similar question to what you had. And something just was like, you know what, go to your bullet points that you created about that and share it with everybody. So I'm going to do that, okay? So some ways that you can actually help a friend who may not want to recognize that they need help with their mental health is some of the things that people already said, which was to express your concerns, let them know that you care about them and that you are there for them. Because sometimes they may not even want to talk about it because, again, what Deanna was saying earlier, how you don't want to be judged, and since you don't want to be judged, you don't want to say nothing. So we had to have that little space of compassion and understanding, like, okay, he probably don't really want me to know. Because even though some of them act like they don't know, some of them they know. And then they'll play on your intelligence and act like they don't know. Listen without judgment. Let them feel heard by validating what he may tell you. You know, if he shares that with you. Ask questions. Ask how can you best support him. You know, ask him like, you know, I see something that, or how can I support you? How can I support you in this? You know? Because in that way, it's actually more so him telling you what he needs, you know, rather than you just assuming what he may need. Offer to help, of course. You can help with everyday tasks or include them in some of your plans, like that would do things to kind of take things off of their mind so they're not as depressed or they're not as, you know, bothered. Be respectful to them and treat them with compassion and empathy, which I said already. Reduce defensiveness and share your feelings and look for common ground and be aware of their feelings. Be responsive and make eye contact with them when you're sharing with them. And be a good listener. That was one of the main things. I said a couple of things. Like I said, this was a presentation. I'm not going through the presentation, y'all. But but be a good listener. Sometimes we're so quick to speak and try to solve somebody's problem, but maybe at that time they don't really want it to be solved. So you can actually damage your friendship because the person could be like, every time I'm around her, she always trying to tell me blah 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 blah. You know? So sometimes just listen. You don't even have to say anything. You can just most of be like, I understand. I understand. Okay? I hope that helps.
If I may, before you do that, she asked about an event. I do have an event coming up. Is that okay to share? Can I share? Okay. So I have a mask off event that's coming up in partnership, and it's for the community around unmasking trauma, mental health, and that's next Saturday. That's going to be happening, and it's going to be happening in Newark.
Okay.
Okay, and so it's at the William Mobile Ashby Community Care Center. I can give the information to Omar to pass out to you all, but it's called Mask Off, and so we'll be doing some similar work. You're welcome. Similar work like that. We'll be taking off our masks and uncovering and getting naked.
Bring a towel and cover up, please. Like, no, I'm joking. Yes.
Okay, yeah, so my question is, had to do with young people, which are younger than what you see here, like high school, because that's where I see a lot of problems. I hear about it on the news, killing one another, hating, doing really mean things. And I don't know, maybe it's because of social media. Even in elementary school, you know, if, you know, kids are feeling bad because maybe they don't have Nike sneakers, where somebody, you know, made fun of them because their parents couldn't afford, you know, nice stuff. And I know some schools, I don't know if they all do, I know they all have counselors, but I don't know if they have therapists that come in. I know where I used to work, maybe once or twice a year they would have therapists come in, and then they would have the kids come to the auditorium, and they would, you know, try to understand what's going on in their lives and tell them, you know, give them some good advice. But I don't know, have you all ever dealt with young people like that and, you know, had to...
So I'm so glad you asked that question, because I was waiting for us to talk about our youth.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I have. So I actually teach classes in local schools in Camden, New Jersey, where the area where I'm from. Camden, New Jersey, local schools and also nonprofits. And I teach trauma-informed care. So I focus on teaching classes where we talk about meditation, the importance of using healthy coping skills. So anything from meditation to healthy eating habits, to resiliency and coping skills that such as affirmations. And so I mean that part, I love all the work I do surrounding mental health, but that's one of my favorite parts, because the youth, they're so hungry for that. And I mean, I've had this one second grader come up to me one time and say, Dr. K, guess what? I was showing my teacher how to do mindful eating with a lollipop, because that's something we talk about, right? And so they're so eager and so excited. And they need it,
They need
right?
it, yes,
I need
they
to
do.
emphasize that because I don't think we realize how many of our young people are actually struggling with their own mental health. I've gone in classes where kindergartners, will raise their hand when I ask who has experienced stress. Kindergartners.
Yeah.
So I go deeper and I ask other questions, like, so tell me more. Like, so what kind of stress are you dealing with at home? And sometimes it's tied to the stress that their parents are dealing with. Like, they're sponges. They will watch you, and if you're dealing with stress, they will take it on as their own. And so they see a lot, too much, really, for their ages. But because of that, we really do need to prioritize their health and make sure that we're creating platforms like this, but for youth as well. And advocate to have more counselors in schools. Like, I've gone to some schools, and more so the charter schools would have like counselors, but the public schools usually don't, from my experience, wouldn't really have those things in place, which I really believe is essential, especially to your point, because of how prevalent social media has become and how much it's taken a toll on their mental health. And so I definitely think that as the body of Christ, as a community, we need to be speaking up more about how we can get those type of services for our children.
Another one?
Sorry, it's a little tangled. Thank you.
Thanks. I just want to say too, being present, as a mom of Gen Zs, okay, I have a couple of them, right? Not the little itty bitty ones, those are the alphas now, right? Thank God, no more, okay. But my son, my youngest son, deals with, he used to struggle with expressing himself and kind of talking about how he felt, and he would just go from 0 to 100 like this, and he would commit to it. Because he's like, all right, I'm here now, let me commit, right? And when COVID came around, he turned into a completely different kid. He was normally outgoing, he would talk to people, he was happy-go-lucky type of situation. When COVID came in, he shut down, and he became this introverted person that I didn't recognize. And he would be frustrated with school and online and things like that, and he just shut down and didn't want to do anything. Now, this is a kid who was always on the honor roll, never had any, academic problems, because he was a hot mess otherwise, but never had any academic issues. And when COVID hit, he was failing classes left and right. So, and this is just as an example, he had to go to summer school, because I don't play that in my house. We're not finna do that, I don't care what no, this has to, right? He didn't want to go to summer school. And so he started feeling himself and thought that he could be disrespectful and rude to me. And some of the things that, he was saying and how he was talking to me, I was like, I'm Jamaican, y'all. There's a level of crazy that is within us, that once it is unleashed, you don't want to be in the pack, We try to suppress it. But I was in his room. I didn't touch him but his room, I was like, what we not finna do, you're not gonna sit up in here in my house in the summertime and play and have my air conditioner running and watching my television that I pay for. And I went ballistic, and he's like, you're crazy. Yes, I am. I'm so glad you recognize that, right? But I had to tell him that he was no longer going to stay at my house with that attitude, and send him to his father. He didn't like that, because mommy is the one that asks him, what's going on? Why are you acting like this? What are you thinking? And his daddy is just like, you on punishment, go sit down somewhere, I don't even want to be bothered. But I had to do that for him to recognize that, one, that doesn't play in my house, right? But then two, you're welcome home as long as you recognize that what you have is a blessing. And so I say that to say he went from 0 to 100. I told his father, come get him. His father, instead of coming and having a conversation with him, calls a social worker that we don't even know. Okay, something with his job. He makes the phone call. Now this stranger is in my house that we don't know. My son is already on 500 and already committed to the foolishness. He went and got a bottle of, what's that stuff that makes you sleep? Melatonin. This is how he commits, okay? He got a bottle of melatonin, talking about he about to eat all the melatonin. I said, why, you wanna sleep for a couple of days? Like, what are you doing, right? But because he did that, he then had to now go and get a mental examination. So they sent him to Trinitas Hospital, where the real people that are dealing with mental illness are. And I was happy about it because I'm like, no, you need to now see, because you're playing these games to try to make people think that this is where you are, when in reality it's a show. So that you can get your way. Right? And so that made me recognize that I now have to be more open. And a lot of times we're not as adults. And the whole reason why I was saying all of this is because we have to be that safe space for other people's children. Because not every parent is going to take the time to try to get to know their child, like really get to know their child. Because, you know, when I was raised, it was do what I say, not as I do. You're a child, stay in a child's place, be quiet. But these children nowadays are exposed to so much, it's overstimulated. They have access to everything. That's why these kindergartners are stressed out, because their parents are their friends talking about relationship. Why am I asking a 4-year-old how they feel about my relationship with my man? You understand? They're little adults. They don't have that opportunity to be children. And so we have to create that safe space for them so that, you know, as she said, they're comfortable coming and talking to you about the things that they're going through, and that they understand that you're going to actually listen and try to understand them and then give them the right tools. I'll never forget, my son said to me one time, he had a blow up, and I was like, what is your problem? And he was like, you're supposed to give me the tools I need to get to you know, because he didn't know how to express himself. You're supposed to help me. When he said that, I was crushed. Because I had to recognize, you know what, I do yell a lot. I think that's that Jamaican side of it, because I was raised, right? And I had to recognize why I am not equipping him. I'm trusting these social workers at his school to equip him. But it's got to start at home. And so I kind of lost my way. But we do have to create a safe space for these kids.
Any other questions?
No, I think I'm done, Diana, right?
I was, but I'm gonna leave it open for another question, because I have to get ready to go. But the main thing was gonna be creating a safe space. Is very important, which is what essentially she said. And we're just gonna say the example, right? No one had questions, but as soon as she asked a question, what happened? You all felt safe to ask questions.
Amen.
Any other questions? If you're wondering whether you should or you shouldn't, you should ask it.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna leave the floor open to my panelists for any closing remarks. You guys have anything that you would like to say?
I guess for me, I would just say that even if you're the one who's experiencing like the mental health issues because you've been through some things, don't give up on yourself. And please, more than anything in this world, remember that you are not your trauma. You are not the depression or anything that you're experiencing. What you are experiencing is completely separate from you. The depression is separate from you. The trauma is separate from you. You are you. The depression is the depression. You are you. The trauma is the trauma. Don't conflict the two. Deal with the trauma that the trauma is as it is, and take care of yourself as our panelists have discussed today, and take care of you. Put you first. Don't forget to unplug. Don't forget to unplug, because we stay plugged in so long all the time. It's why our brain is always running, and we don't even realize that we're creating more trauma in our lives just by consistently thinking about the trauma and being nostalgic, always constantly thinking about what has happened in the past. But we really have to come to a space where we create new thoughts, so that we can create new patterns in our mind and new programs in our mind in order for us to possess the actual, that balance that we want in our lives. So Don't be hard on yourself, and just please remember and repeat after me. I am not my trauma.
I am not my trauma.
Repeat after me again. I am not my trauma.
I am not my trauma.
And one more time, I want you to say, I am my own rescue.
I am my own rescue.
Repeat after me. I am my own rescue.
I am my own rescue.
That's right, because you can't expect everybody outside of you to save you, but understand that when you decide for yourself that I'm going to shift the way that I think, I'm going to change my actions, and I'm not going to let what happened to me control me. You know how powerful that is, guys? It's extremely powerful, and I believe that each and every one of you have that power in you. Use it.
If I say one thing, I would say don't get frustrated with the process. We all think that healing is a destination. And healing is not a destination, it is a journey, okay? And it is your own journey. So don't look at people who you see may have gone through similar things. You're like, wow, she overcame that real quick. That was her journey. It may take you longer because we also impede and we don't want to go through that process when God is doing the pruning. You know, the olive branch got to go through them stages, right? We got to go through 3 of them stages. And sometimes we don't like the first stage, but then you might get through it and you're like, all right, this second stage, I'm done, I'm tapping out, right? And so we hinder ourselves from going. And so you may get good, then you may revert. You may start advancing, you may fall all the way back, right? It happens, so don't get frustrated with the journey and understand that it is a journey. It is not a destination. No one arrives. No one arrives. We all have things that we still continue to work on each and every day because God continues to reveal and peel back.
I was just gonna add that, the other thing is to not be isolated. You have an issue, stay connected to someone. Stay connected, don't be isolated. That's where the devil will get you for sure and keep you in that bondage and that stronghold. So you wanna make sure you stay connected, so somebody knows what's going on with you. It could be one person, it has to be at least one person, for sure, so that can get you help.
All right, well, I'm gonna use the mic because I'm a bit soft-spoken. So I would say make sure that you are showing up for you. You owe it to you to show up for you. I'm sure we've all heard the analogy on the airplane that you want to make sure that you give yourself air before you give air to the person next to you, right? Because that ensures that you are still well enough to even be there for that next person. And so ensure that you're taking time out for you, you're prioritizing you, and that you are giving yourself grace. Because as the sister said, you know, healing is not linear, right? It's a journey, and we have to be okay with the fact that we may go through stages of healing, right? We may heal from one thing, and then something else gets stirred up, and we're like, oh man, I got another thing I need to heal from. But it's okay. And it's okay for you to be able to give yourself grace and show yourself compassion on that journey. And I do have a shameless plug. So I have wrote a book called Detours to Destiny, when the detour becomes the path. And I talk about my own journey and the fact that I had to go through a lot of challenges in life, starting from childhood, even tried to take my life at one point because I was so frustrated with things that were just simply out of my control. And it wasn't until I began to get a different perspective on life. And I based it on Romans 8:28, that all things work together for the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Because a lot of times we just have to change. Sometimes all it takes is a change in perspective to really change our lives. And so that is what I really want to leave with you. Romans 8:28, know that everything, even those things that you went through that you thought were the worst thing possible, still God will turn it around and use it for your good, and you allow him to.
All right, so did you have anything? Okay, so I will leave you guys with, I know Takia, you talked about states of consciousness, and you know in the very beginning you talked about how there's a certain sense of perspective, understanding that happens, that has to happen for you to be able to deal with your mental health and the things that are going on with you. Perspective is very great. I love that you said that, Dr. Ralph. And I think having grace for yourself, but also having gratitude, that's one thing that I have learned. So I know that James in the Bible, I'll give you guys a Bible verse as well. James talks about considering it pure joy when you face trials of any kind, because we know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So that perseverance finishes its work in you, so that you may be whole and complete and lacking nothing, right? There's another translation of that that says, consider it an opportunity for pure joy, because you may look at that verse and be like, that ain't pure joy. You know, I'm in pain, I got this trauma, I'm physically hurt, it's not joy, right? But a translation of that says, consider it an opportunity for pure joy when you face trials of any kind. So that perspective of being able to not have toxic positivity, yes, you know, embrace the things that you are dealing with, acknowledge those things, have compassion for yourself, for others, being able to create those safe spaces and those balances for yourself and for others who are dealing with things, going to the outlets, the therapy, and Jesus. I love that you said that, Deanna. But also, for me, I have found that gratitude, and not toxic gratitude either, because some things, you know, I may not look at as being good things, but gratitude and acknowledging how thankful I am for the things that God is not only bringing me through, that are pruning me to make me a better person, but also has brought me through, and things that He is doing in me today has been very, very helpful for me. So I know fear, anxiety, all those thoughts and negativities that we can keep in us are very low vibrational states of consciousness, right? But gratitude is the very highest that you can get to, because it takes you out of yourself, out of your trauma, out of everything that you are and have dealing with, and says, something outside of me, someone outside of me has blessed me and loved me enough to not only bring me through the things that I have been brought through to this day, but to keep me here and to love me as much as I have been loved. So I will leave you guys with that, and I would like to incite a round of applause for our lovely family. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and be blessed. God bless.
Follow us on social media.
Oh yeah.
Live out loud with
I'm
Dr.
Keisha
K.
Natalie Cole everywhere.
Live out loud with Dr. K. Live out loud with Dr. K. In fact, I just launched my YouTube channel, y'all, for my birthday this week. Super excited about that. And so I would love if you could support by subscribing to my YouTube channel, Live Out Loud with Dr. K.
Is that your Instagram too?
It is. It's also my IG as well. Yeah, it's on. Yep. So, and if you go to the IG, you can see the link on for YouTube. All right. Thank you.
Got you, Dr. K.
So what do you want us to do? Tell everybody where to find us? Where you can find me? Google me, baby. TAKIYAH, Diamond Like the Ring. But you can also just visit my website, guys. It's TakiaDiamond.com. You will see several of the books that I've written. You can also book a free 20-minute discovery session with me where we can actually look at what's going on with you and see if I am the life coach for you. And I don't just do life coaching, I'm also of a business life coach. So if you have a business, you definitely want to speak to me. But if your mindset, you feel like you need a little help, I can definitely coach you to help you shift the way that you think. There's certain things that that you don't know about yourself when it comes to your inner power that I do know, that if I educate you on it, you will never be the same. So definitely visit my website, TakiaDiamond.com. Don't forget, y'all. Okay? All right.
Mine is at, so Instagram is where I'm going to give you, because my Facebook is my name, which is a little long to spell. So if you do at @IM_D Collins, that's where you can find me. Again, it's at IM_D Collins. You can find my devotional that I have up there. You can also find my website where you can also book a free session to be able to do one unmasking session. And then you can also find out other things about what I'm doing with my conference and upcoming events that I have.
I'm at Instagram, Justin_JN12. You can find me on Facebook as well, Justin Morris. I got a book that's coming on the way, not out yet. So trying to be like them. Yeah, and ultimately, I appreciate it. I'm just here to serve God.
All right.
And you can find me at Live in the Word with Pastor Greg.
Justin_JN12.
Thank each and every single one of y'all for actually coming out today. I truly am blessed. I truly appreciate it. Mental health has, affected me in my personal life, because this is why I create these kinds of spaces to have other people come in here and do this. You know, I had situations that I have gone through in my own personal life, and so I thank God for where I am today, because I was the kind of person that when I was younger, oh, you're not gonna do this, and you're not gonna make it and do this in life, and so I had trouble and I had issues with that, but I'm glad that God has brought me from where I was to where I am now. I just want to thank y'all for coming out today. I love y'all and I truly appreciate you. Thank you for just coming out today. Oh yeah, thank you. I love you. Love you all. Oh yeah, yeah. Doctor, thank Yeah, I did
Praying for you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so. You taking a picture?
Yeah, can you take
Oh yeah, we gotta get a group.
You gotta
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you know what?
There we go.
Come on.
Can someone take one on my, excuse me, do you mind taking one on my camera for me? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just testing it. It's not a real shot. I'm just seeing how many of us could get in here. So we probably gotta come closer. Not all this
Take
topic.
it for us.
Oh, that's what.
Everybody ready?
No.
Turn it
I
up.
feel kind of tall.
Hey, y'all,
If you-
scoot over just a little bit that way.
This way.
Which way?
To y'all right, my left. Come this way just a little bit.
Everybody?
Yep, everybody.
All right. Okay.
Shift. There's a shift going on in
That
the
part.
atmosphere.
Hey.
Everybody ready?
Two.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't move out of here.
You should probably turn it the other way.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I was telling, I said I would.
Try to turn it,
But I said you're gonna do a follow-up, right, maybe in December.
That's a good time.
That's
to
the
do it.
time, yes it is, between Thanksgiving and
You
Christmas.
got Central
Well, I
Illinois.
stopped now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Come on, get in here, y'all. Oh, wait, one more time. We almost got it. Get in. All right, how about somebody take it for us, please? Now turn it around, right? Okay, then.
Y'all ready?
Don't forget to send all my info on
Thank
everything.
you. Yes, oh, yes, that's a good
We can
idea.
all share.
Yeah, because I'm not sure ma'am. Ma'am, you're looking at our next project. Ma'am, we need to get that plan together.
So I'm definitely gonna reach you so I can, have it come on the show.